Okay, good morning. It's 9 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Call the meeting to order. Janelle, to take roll call, please. Well, you probably could just do it on top of your head.
I could actually. Henry? Hill?
Here.
Raymond? Rochester? Here. Nelson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, I want to thank you all for coming here today and participating in our budget session. This is going to be Chris's show again. So here.
Thank you very much for being here, everyone. Sorry the lights on this half of the room are out. We had some electricity issues this morning. Contacted PG&E, so those are being fixed. So we've got a little bit smaller crowd than the last workshop, and we're going to start with a very short activity. So if you are sitting at a table of just 1 or 2 people, maybe combine with another table so we have at least 3 people at each table. So maybe these 2 tables can combine and these, you guys are good. So in the middle of the table, what we're gonna do is a little activity that is about budgeting. And the budget is, and this is not congruent exactly with our budget. It's not apples to apples. This is just an example. So something that it's a great teacher. So the tokens that you have in the middle, the circle tokens, or chips, in the middle of the table, that represents your funds that you have, that you can spend by putting them on cards. So if you'll undo the paper clips on those different stacks of cards, there's 3 different types of cards. So there's the one with the gray border. Those are constraint cards. So you can look around the table and show them what those constraint cards are. You can undo the paper clips over here. So everyone look, just keep the cards in the middle of the table. Everyone can read what the cards. Those constraint cards with the gray border, those are unfortunate realities that we're going to have to start off by spending our tokens on those. So if it says -1 token, then you put 1 token on that card. If it says -2, then you put 2. So that's where we're going to start. All right, so our budget's already shrunk, right? Or rather, our remaining funds have shrunk in size. Next, we have cards that have a little yellow token printed in the middle. They have a green and blue border. Those are opportunity cards. So there's 4 of those, and we get to choose up to 2 of them. So that's going to be the first decision, and each table is acting as its own mini city council. So I'll leave it to the tables. I'll give you a couple minutes to decide which cards you would like to choose. 2 of those 4 opportunity cards. You only get to choose 2 of them. There might be an easy decision, and there might be some tricky ones. So of the 4 opportunity cards, you only get to choose 2 of them. And the reason for that is it represents the resources that, and the priorities that the city has to go after certain extra funds. So TOT, that's the hotel tax. Our TOT is currently at 8%. If you look at a lot of other cities, they are at 10, 12%, some go even higher than that. So if we were to increase our TOT, we could get 50% more than what we have right now if we go from 8 to 12.
big, small amount of money, but a big successful hotel will bring $100,000 a year.
We do have a Holiday Inn Express that's on its way. It's already got its title list and it's close to getting a building permit. They plan to break ground around late summer. All right, so does this table, have you chosen your two out of your four? Okay. How about this table, you've chosen your two? So if you haven't yet, get out the other cards, which kind of have a rainbow border. You have those out? Okay. So the two opportunity cards that you chose, those count as extra tokens. So you can put those two opportunity cards, they count as one token each. You can spend those on top of the other cards, the rainbow border cards.
What, do we still, our new Atwater, our new city money is still earning? When are we gonna not do that? I feel like every other profession in America, it's school teachers. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's some.
There's a lot of those.
What happens when the city goes bankrupt? Is the pension fund, like if the city goes bankrupt, is the pension fund already funded and still pays?
Are these the two that you chose? So you can spend those.
So, let's look at the ones from the rainbow cards.
Okay, so if you wanted.
Are these the two you chose?
Yes.
So they count, they're part of the stack.
So these two, yes.
Next to the police officer.
No, I can see. I was too,
I think it looks fine. We already, didn't we already have another code enforcement officer? Fine. Well, we only have 2, 6.
But how many cops do you want?
We're fully funded.
Just one, is what I'm trying to ask.
Oh.
You want two?
Oh, no, I'm saying we have enough money right now to have a fund all at once.
One cop. Four tokens.
I don't think we need any more cops. I think one additional cop. I'm saying, like, how about we save somebody?
If there's
that cop
if
car
there's a
down.
disagreement at the table, we vote. We can put it to a vote. You're a mini city council.
So right now you get one of each.
Yeah, I'm
Unless you
saying,
wanted
I'm
two.
saying we technically have enough money to fund one. Do you think we need more than one additional police officer or more than one additional? Do we have any Measure B funds? Yeah. Millions of Measure B funds. So it's supposed to be somewhere, and, well, I don't know the constraints of Measure B.
And this is specific.
Right.
In general,
This is a break.
Are we allowed to have a budget, have surplus?
Yeah, let's have one token of
Keep two, and I have public work as well.
no public works.
If we don't have, saying if we put those two on the left down, or we just fund those things, we have.
Yes. It's like we need to play games and utilize resources. Did we not know this?
Oh, wait, have you?
If there was any difference, I think you can.
And now we can fund those things right
And
there.
have a budgetary.
We have a surplus.
We have a budget.
Yeah, I understand Caltrans.
I have no dog in this one, so.
We made money off these, so these are capital costs.
How many copies do you have?
I mean,
Are we close? We got it all figured out,
we have a surplus. I'm trying to get a vote to keep a surplus.
Okay, got it. Oh, so in that case, you can do a motion, if someone can second it, then you can do a vote, and everybody at the table votes.
So if we're, if, I literally don't
I put forth a motion that we maintain a surplus of 2 tokens. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Good, thank you. Adam?
Yeah, yay, yes.
Sean? Yay. Mayor? Sir?
Oh, 3-3, we got a tie vote. Well, I didn't expect this, we should have.
We're gonna have to delay this till next meeting, next budget meeting.
I think for the purposes of this, we'll just say that
No, we can't do this.
it's a tie, it was a tie. So,
Hey, budget meeting 3.
all we were voting on is
Back to the agenda. Maintain a one budgetary service so we get a public works employee.
I'm okay to amend my initial,
is that one of these? Where? No, that was, what we was voting on was.
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing budget public works? No. That was a tie.
yes, it was a
So
tie.
So that failed.
Then an amendment to my motion is that you keep a surplus of 1 token and add 1 more public works.
Okay, so
And
then,
I'm okay with
now we're
that.
here.
That's kind of broken Antioch.
So,
I know the name, yeah. Farm Dry Farm. Yeah.
I amended.
Oh, yeah. And are you violating the rules? I got it, buddy, after this next meeting.
I love you, Antioch.
So make a new motion.
New motion, I'd like 1 token in our
Yeah.
Just like this. Just like this.
Now, and the motion was made to use our surplus tokens to add to the surplus. So, 1 motion.
Keith opposes, okay.
Yeah.
So that passes, all right? It goes into a fund balance for next year.
Yes, no, we're saying the one that we added to public works.
So,
Motion, so we made a motion to keep one token budgetary surplus. We would make a motion to add a token to public works and fund an additional public works.
Well, a lot of those take multiple tokens, so
Public works takes one.
that's true.
That's
That's why we said that. Would you like to make that motion?
I'll second.
Sean, yes.
They took it to
Alright, so that passed, okay. So you can put that last one on there.
So we're gonna,
This is pretty much
the goal, I guess, for the last thing is to have one sworn police officer.
Okay, this is great. We had, one of our tables had, some disagreement, so they put it to a vote. They had a motion in a second, and, acted as sort of a city council. So, I'd like to go around and just talk about what each table decided to choose. So this table, you've got your constraints. You chose the TOT and the technology upgrade, for your bonuses. And then you chose, let's see, police officer, launch and downtown beautification, public works employee, improved cybersecurity, and cost of living. Is that right? Okay. And then this table, you've got your constraints, and then, help me figure this out.
You doubled up on some things because that was a priority.
2 public works employees, 1 police officer, downtown beautification, and tech upgrades. And you used the Prop 218 study and technology upgrade groups. Also, you've got playground equipment. Great. Okay. Cool. And then this one shows for the bonuses. They also did TOT, and let's see, you didn't do TOT, did you? You did Prop 218. Okay. And you did community volunteers help with park cleanup. Cool. And then you chose the cost of living, the playgrounds, cybersecurity, and 2 public works. So interesting that we had, I think we had 2 tables that all chose 2 public works, and we had 2 tables that did the TOT, and we had, I think all 3 tables did the cybersecurity, didn't you? Did you do cybersecurity? Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
could you explain the Prop 218?
Yeah, so Prop 218 is when we need to raise water sewer rates, then we do there's a process called Prop 218, it's from Proposition 218, where we have to notify everyone, and then it goes out to a vote. So yeah, I don't know how much more you want from that, but okay, this is interesting. So I have a few questions. What was the hardest choice? Just raise your hand. What was the hardest choice for you? I'll bring the mic over to you. Or the hardest decision? The pain point. Some of it was easy, and then you got to the end and you're like, okay, here.
How much to maintain in reserve?
How much to, oh, and I should note, this table kept 1 token for reserve.
Oh, that's.
Okay, what
Big brain table over here.
what happened that was unexpected to you? You read the cards and then someone picked up a token and moved it, and it was like, oh, I didn't expect that. Anything? And then what would you change if you had just 2 more tokens? What would be the next thing that you would get? Maybe something that you argued over a little bit. Another police officer? Another public works employee? And another cop. Yeah, okay. All right, this has been interesting, and I'm thankful that you participated in this. So we have a PowerPoint presentation that we'll go through, and I'll start us off, but I'll be passing the mic to different department heads that have different slides to go over. So we'll start with the first. You got it. So the purpose of this workshop is we're going to go over a few things. I'll talk about the fiscal status of the city, some current city priorities and upcoming projects and policy decisions. And then we'll get into the bulk of this is reviewing and responding to previous discussion points from the first budget workshop. So our fiscal status, this is based on the adopted budget fiscal year 25-26. So when we adopted that budget, we had a goal based on our strategic plan that we would have at least 25% of our operating expenses left over at the end of this fiscal year that we're in, at least 25% in fund balance. So for example, and I'm just going to round for easy numbers, if we had budgeted an estimate $20 million in operating expenses, then 25% of that, a quarter of $20 million, is $5 million. So that would mean that our general fund budgeted balance that we would need at the end, after we've paid all the bills and everything for the whole fiscal year, at the end we should have at least $5 million left. We actually have 68.5%. That was based on when we did that budget. So we're well beyond that. You could call it the rainy day fund. Our rainy day fund is pretty healthy. However, that doesn't mean that we should go out and spend it all at once, because we have operating expenses and revenue, and they've been pretty close to each other. Over the past several years, we have budgeted a structural deficit, which means we've estimated in our budget that we will spend a little bit more on ongoing expenses, not counting one-time expenses, but ongoing expenses, a little bit more than what we're budgeting, what we're forecasting for our revenue. However, each year, the actual numbers that we're spending and that we're taking in for revenue are positive. It's positive each year. So although our budget has shown that we're forecasting that we're going to lose a bit of money based on our ongoing expenses and revenue, the actuals are positive. So that's a good thing to keep in mind, because it means that we're not in a real deficit. It just that means that what we're estimating is the structural deficit. And when we had the mid-year budget earlier this year, our forecast has actually gotten brighter. It's gotten better, and it shows that we have a positive. By the end of this fiscal year, we should end with a positive based on the ongoing expenses forecast versus our revenues. So that's really good news. It may not last because, maybe we had a good year with investments, and maybe that's not going to last. I don't know. And it wasn't a huge positive. It was like around $100,000. Whereas our structural deficit was $400,000 at the beginning of the fiscal year. And as a reminder, the previous fiscal year, it was closer to $1.1 million as a deficit. That's just the estimated amount, not the actuals. Similarly, with Measure B, we bring in revenue, we spend, and we budget a certain amount that we're going to be spending. And when we get to the end of that fiscal year, we want to have money left over in our fund for Measure B, at least 25% of what we're estimating that we're going to be spending in that 12 months. So that's the goal, based on the strategic plan that the City Council adopted, that we need to have 25% in that rainy day fund for Measure B specifically. And what the budget showed, the 25-26 fiscal year budget, was that we would end the year with 44% instead of 25%. So that also is a healthy, good thing. We need to maintain it above 25%.
Chris, what is
Let me give you the mic.
I just wanted to know the total. There's like 9 people here.
I know, it's for the recording.
I just wanted to know the total amount in the general fund balance.
Just off the top of my head, it's close to $14-15 million. That's what we're budgeting that will end the fiscal year with. Yeah. Okay. And that's just a reminder that what we budgeted was that $400,000 structural deficit. That doesn't mean that that's the actuals. That's just the estimate or forecast. Okay. These are just broad categories of what we have to think about when we're working on a budget. Not to say that we're going to do all of these things, but these are the topics that come up. Should we add more positions? Do we need to provide more resources? That's an ongoing cost. Are we adding new programs? For example, we've got different recreation programs. That would be an ongoing cost. There might be one-time costs as well if we need to buy new equipment for that program. And then projects. Do we have a road project? Do we have there's different kinds of projects that may have one-time costs and possible ongoing costs. Some projects are, we need a new equipment for our fire station. That could be, generally speaking, a one-time cost, but you might have maintenance that's involved, and that would be ongoing. And also, just keeping in mind that if we do more status quo of trying to keep things balanced, we may not be able to add all the things that we want to add because we want to stay in a more balanced position. Okay, so these are just examples. They don't all come out of the general fund. Some of them are, they could be grant funded, they could come out of Measure B. These are just big dollar price tag examples of things that we pay for. So road overlays and restriping, that's about $1.2 million. The Osborne Park expansion, we don't know exactly yet. We're in design right now, but it'd be $2 million or more. Downtown pedestrian improvements, that $4.5 million right there is largely spent. We've completed multiple phases of the sidewalk project in the downtown, and we're very happy with that. Coming up, we're going to eventually need a new ladder truck. Our ladder truck is getting older, and as it gets older, maintenance starts to accrue, and eventually we may need a new ladder truck coming up, and that would cost an estimated $2 million. So we need to keep that in mind. It may not happen this fiscal year, but it's going to be coming up. Castle Sewer Interceptor completion, $2 million. Citywide traffic signal synchronization, $1.3 million. The SB 707 is a new law that requires us to upgrade we have to have basically like a Zoom participation option for people that are attending our city council meetings. And that could cost, and we're working on quotes right now, but we need to upgrade the city council chambers, and that could cost tens of thousands of dollars. Also, we've got some upcoming policy decisions to make. There's a CAL FIRE agreement renewal coming up very soon. We're going to be evaluating city-owned real estate. And the city owns a few properties that are not stormwater basins, but actually we could do something with it. For example, the water tower, and that could be a discussion that comes up on April 13th to talk about should we do something or not, what should we do. So we'll bring that up. Evaluate vacant commercial building issues, another topic that's come up. And then, our housing element update and our general plan update. Those are big things that we're working on. There's some news recently with the housing element, and later on, Johnny will have her turn with the slides. She can get a little bit more into the housing element. So talk about that some more. All right, and then this is just an index slide that shows. Now we're getting into the meat of the conversation of responding to previous discussion points. So each of these bullet points represents an upcoming slide that we'll see. We'll start with infrastructure, parks, recreation, public safety, economic activity, financial discussion, and department spending and transparency. So the first one will be infrastructure projects. And I'll turn the time over to Justin.
Thank you, Chris. And just to clarify, the downtown pedestrian improvements, that was $4.5 million. That's not the ones that were completed. That's the future pedestrian improvement projects 3 and 4 that we're applying for grant funding for. So road striping and street maintenance, a lot of the funding that comes out of to perform those projects is gas tax, SB1, RCP, which the RCP will be spent or allocated coming the April 13th council meeting when we take the overlays to council, and then grant funding such as Measure B. So that's basically how we get the maintenance projects done for the roads. Last budget workshop we had street name signs. A member of the public came and said, hey, there's about 20 intersections that the signs aren't illuminated. So we went out, bought the materials to do it. So we've gotten 7 done. We're using SB funds. We're also going to change out, I don't know if you noticed, when you come up to the intersection, you see the green signs faded where it shows like East Bellevue. So we're gonna completely change those out as well. That way it's brand new, looks brand new at each intersection. The public have brought up, rollovers. So if you don't use some of your allocation for this month, that you can use it for the next month. So when we do a rate study, we'll have the consultant look into that, and if it's a viable option, then we'll bring it to council, and council will make that decision. Next slide. Inclusive and accessible parking initiatives. So we're working with Stephanie Rivero at an inclusive playground. I know the city manager and her are gonna go take a look at one here in April, and we'll come back, we'll do some stakeholder meetings, try for grants, and kind of see where the public thinks the best spot would be. If the public wants one, where it would be located. It would have to have, wherever park we put it in, would have to have some ADA upgrades as well. So it's kind of knock out a 2 for 1. You put an accessible playground for all children, and you would create ADA at a park where most of them don't have ADA accessibility, in all honesty. The dog park is planned and is included in the 30% plans. We haven't got those yet, but we should be getting them soon for Osmo Park. I would say within the next 2 weeks. And then any future park development, we'll have stakeholder meetings, surveys we send out. I think even next time, maybe we just go door to door in the area of that park and ask the residents, because just not seeing a lot of people show up to things we put on, and maybe if we just go to their door, we'll get more of a response. Next slide. What programs are doing great in recreation, which ones are failing? So the best program we've had as far as youth for the past number of years is youth basketball. That one, it always fills up. There's always demand for it, even for people out of the city of Atwater. The least successful has been youth flag football. Youth flag football was doing really good about 5-6 years ago, and it just steadily declined as people put their kids back into tackle football. You had that period where people weren't putting their kids in tackle football, so flag football got really more popular, and you kind of seen it slowly fading. We still get about 89 kids. I don't know if we could change the time of year. It's something we're trying to figure out, like how can we get that participation number up? Maybe the kids that play tackle can try flag at another point of year. We're gonna add indoor pickleball. I don't have the exact date, but there's been a large amount of requests for pickleball, crazy amount. And then youth volleyball, we've seen a dramatic increase. So we're gonna add another season, probably in the summer. We'll see how it works, because in the summertime you have kids aren't in school, so you tend to have a lot of missing athletes off rosters. And it's kind of like, well, can you fill the whole roster or not? It's very difficult. But then the rest of the season you have other sports, and then kids are trying to bounce back and forth. So the timing of it, we just really got to kind of pin down. And then I really want to do another basketball season, because it's our biggest program that we have. It's just lining up around the AAU schedules and around ours and around baseballs, and maybe it's just a shortened season, like 4 to 5 week season. And then we did used to have drop-in. The last year we had 33 participants, and I think only like 9 of them were full-time throughout the whole week. The rest of them were just like a day or 2 during the week. So we said, well, since the schools are putting basically drop-in on for free at the schools now, let's figure something else out. So then we added youth volleyball and youth basketball classes. So not like seasons, but classes. And that turned out to be pretty successful. I think we had 112 kids in that. And then, I don't know, you want to take questions now on that part?
Oh,
just in case PG&E.
Any questions for Justin?
No, thank you, Justin, because for everything that you're doing, we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll turn the time over to Chief, who will talk a little bit about public safety.
Thank you, Chris. So we've talked a lot about adding police officers and what that would cost. So we worked with finance and HR to figure out what it would cost for a full salary benefits of a police officer. So for one police officer, salary benefits, it would cost $181,389. And then we just did simple math just so people could see. If we wanted to add 2, it would cost a little over $362,000. If we had 3, $544,000. And if we had 4, $725,000. We talked about the potential of either fully or partially funding, depending on how many we're looking at adding, using Measure B funds, and then trying to figure out a way to use general fund money to fund whatever else Medicaid would cover. At the last budget meeting, we talked about signage at the police station, how right now there really isn't any. We have 2, I think there are 3 by 2 signs that are out on the sidewalk, but they're not very visible, especially at night. So we talked about getting illuminated signage for both the building and for a sign closer to the street for people driving by that don't know where the police department is. I'm working with a local sign company to get quotes, and they're a little bit delayed, but his ballpark numbers are there for the basically just a raceway on the building that will be illuminated that would say Atwater Police Department would be about $15,000, and then a pole sign that would be higher in the air, so it's visible for both directions, would be between $20,000 and $25,000, depending on some of the options that we're looking at. With all the solar panels that are there, we're going to make sure that they're not obstructing the sign, because if they are, it really doesn't serve any purpose if people can't see it. And we want to make sure it's in a position where they see it and are able to turn in the parking lot before it's too late and they have to pass the parking lot. So that's what we're working on now. We should have those actual numbers probably within the next week or 2, and then we can move forward on that.
Thank you, Chief. Just talking 1 second about the signs, and then I'll hand it over. Paying for those signs would come out of the general fund, not Measure B, unless the council decides otherwise. You have a question?
Yes, for the chief. I have a question regarding your individual per officer costs, and you mentioned salary plus benefits. Do those figures up there also include the long-term OPEB obligations the city will have to incur?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Justin gave a report on Public Works and what they're doing. But what about Public Works employees additional? I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so actually I'll be able to talk about that on my last slide. I've got something about that. But I can answer it right now. Basically, I'll just skip ahead. So right now, department heads are working on budget worksheets and putting in requests for different things. So requests for positions, changing positions, promoting certain positions based on business needs, operational needs, and all of those requests and budget worksheets from each department get compiled, and then we review those. Anna and I review those together and try to find a way to make all that happen if possible. And we come up with a proposed budget that we present to the city council at the draft budget hearing. And then the city council can amend that, change that, however the city council decides. And eventually in June, we go to the final budget hearing and it gets adopted, and then we implement what city council chooses. So that's how that works, is if there's going to be a new public works employee, then there would need to be a request based on operational needs, and then it needs to be reviewed and then approved by the city council. Any other public safety questions before we move on? All right, thank you. I'll now turn the time over to Johnny, our new Community Development Director.
Thank you. So economic activity and outreach, we are looking at first just working to. And then testing? Yep. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm Johnny. I'm the community development fellow.
Let's try this way.
development, activity, outreach. One of the things that has been brought forth with discussions with the council is really trying to create an infrastructure to provide eventual interest in economic development. Because when a developer or a company comes in, if they have to develop all the infrastructure themselves, that's a huge cost that then becomes a hindrance in some cases. It doesn't pencil out. So we are funding part with a grant, the widening of green sands. We're also seeking additional grant funding to be able to apply the active transportation lanes, bike lanes. There's also some grant funding helping with the sewer and water connections so that Ferrari Ranch can become more interesting to developers. That coupled with the regional expense for the AME will really help bring that benefit to the city and to our sales tax and to just services for the community there. So we're really excited about that. We are hoping to have additional business roundtable discussions. My interest is really in small business. I'm the wife of a small business owner and the daughter of one. Small business brings in 90% of the jobs and the money. And so it's important for our community not just to reach out for the big fish, but to really to help support those that are already operating and hopefully can continue to thrive within our community and grow. Improving the attractiveness of Atwater Boulevard is an important thing, as though that's the gateway to our community. And so there is money and time being spent for a rock and material at the underpass. And hopefully we'll also be working towards finding grant funding for signage and potentially some help with the drainage on Atwater Boulevard. So stay tuned, because we are trying to improve that whole area and the infrastructure involved there. So one of my jobs also is supporting land development and housing. We are working on our process improvement. That's a big focus. But you have probably heard communication from the governor's office regarding our housing element. So the housing element, the general plan has several chapters, and we call them elements. And the housing element is one chapter, but the element is very much guarded, restricted, run by the state of California, because the state of California has ideas on how much housing and where that housing should be placed. So the Atwater has been part of a multi-jurisdictional housing element program with the county, and which is not a bad idea, because housing we shouldn't be in a vacuum. Housing can be a regional issue. Housing costs can be a regional issue. When you have different cities involved, then there's differing comments, different timelines, just a lot of, it can be complicated. So I came from City Merced, and City Merced also has been non-compliant in their housing element, but they just received their we call it the golden letter from HCD, I would say last week or the week before. We spent a lot of time trying to put that through. And like Atwater, there was some bumps along the way, but they did receive that letter a couple of weeks ago, maybe even just last week. Atwater, when I walked in the door, I was concerned because I heard that we were also not compliant, but I found out that we are actually not that far. I mean, we could actually adopt a housing element the same time Merced does this summer. So we have a draft that I understand is really quite good. We're like right there. We are taking a look at it actually on Monday morning and sending it back to our consultant, who will then put it out to public comment for 7 days. We're hoping Monday evening, like end of day Monday. And then that 7-day comment, bring it back. We have to respond to some of those comments. That usually doesn't take too long, maybe a week, if that. And then it goes to the state. It's our third round with the state. Merced had, I think, up to 5 rounds, maybe 4, but it could have been up to 5. So we're, the state takes a look at it. I'm requesting from the state, I already have, a preliminary review once we submit that to them, so that we can look at any comments they might have before they send us the review letter with their list. Because what we were able to do in Merced is be able to address those comments so that the list actually either gets smaller, or in the case of the last one, we got the golden letter. So I understand from our consultant, we're close to that. So it was disappointing, and I sent an email to the state about that's disappointing when we're working in good faith to receive that call out. So I just want the public to know that we are actually quite close to getting compliant with our housing element, and we have been working very actively with the state of California to try and achieve that. Our volunteer initiatives, Love Atwater, we're looking at 1,000 for new program sponsorship. So, in our table here, we talked about how volunteerism is very strong here in Atwater. And I want to personally thank you, the community and community groups, for what they currently do. Because when you volunteer and take care of each other and take care of the community, you do honestly save the city money. I mean, you help with our budget in certain ways. So we do want to encourage volunteerism. We want to give opportunities, but we also want to support you in whatever way we can. And so when you have ideas for additional programs, please make sure that you come to us with that. Somebody did ask about economic development and marketing, and so once we get some of these things settled, I am interested in putting our face out there and marketing Atwater as a place to do business, because I believe that we are going to create an environment where business will be able to thrive and be supported. So I did just want to add that.
Thank you for that. Just a couple notes here. Johnny is our community development director. We do not have an economic developer or economic development manager. That's not the position the city has right now. But Johnny's position covers kind of an umbrella. It covers planning, building, engineering, and although we don't have any positions focused solely on economic development, community development really captures that. So that's part of her job. It's not all of her job. And thank you for that. That was a great summary of what's going on. And yeah, like what she was saying, we are going after grants for different things like widening green sands and other projects. Those are tentative still, but we're hopeful. So now I will turn the time over to Anna for a few slides.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I have some follow-up information from the first budget workshop in February. There were some questions, and I have the answers now for us. And I passed out some pamphlets. That will be a couple questions down the road, and I'll explain those. Okay, there was a question that came up about property tax agreement with the city of Atwater and Merced County. This is an item that can be negotiated between cities and counties for a more equitable distribution. Looking at the strategic plan for that was adopted by council for 2026-2030, the city council has included this as an item. It's item 1.11 of the strategic plan. So the follow-up to that question is it is on council's radar, and it is going to be looked at during the life of this particular strategic plan. There was a question that came up about negotiating higher franchise fees. For reference, we've put the franchise fees that are recorded for fiscal year 24-25 general fund franchise fees. We get franchise fees from Comcast, and actually that amount includes DirecTV as well, PG&E, and Merced Irrigation District. A good question came up about that on if those fees can be negotiated to a higher percentage. That is something that, should council give that direction, it is something that could be done. Those fees, to my knowledge, are by legal statute, so I would suggest the first thing that would need to be done is to see if we're already getting the highest maximum allowed per legal statute, and if not, what the process is to go and negotiate a higher rate. And there was a question on our unfunded accrued liability, which I'll refer to as UAL, and what our total UAL is at this time. So I passed out some papers that look like this. You might have to share, and it might be hard over in the back of the room there. You might not be able to see it, but I'll walk through the numbers with everybody. So the most recent actuarial valuation report that's available for the public, and it's the one that the city uses as well, is online at CalPERS, and there's the link where you can find it if anybody wanted to look at it. What you do is you insert the name Atwater under name, and it's going to bring up all the reports that are associated with the city of Atwater. The total combined UAL as of the date, June 30th, 2024, is $29.7 million. So on the sheets that I passed out, I will show you what we look at when the report is several pages long, but there's a couple key pages that, if you're ever interested, will help you look at some of the main numbers that we look at when we're looking at the total UAL, and we're looking at the amount to budget in the operating budget for that year. So on the first page is the safety risk pool. And then the second page is the miscellaneous, because City of Atwater has multiple plans, but this past year, CalPERS has combined all miscellaneous plans into one report and all safety plans into one report. So it makes it a little easier. You're not having to look at 4 or 5 different reports, you're just looking at 2. So the number that we're looking at for budgeting is, if you look in the square on the first sheet, you'll see that unfunded accrued liability amount of $1.5 million. That is what we have to plan for fiscal year 26-27 to pay. Now, we always pay the annual prepayment option, which gives us approximately 3.2% discount. So we'll be paying the $1.46 million. And what that means is that is a cash outflow to the city's cash in July. And so when cities are looking at whether or not they can make that annual prepayment, sometimes cities can't. It depends on their cash flow. And so they can't take advantage of that interest discount because they actually need that money in the bank, or they've got it tied up in other investments where they're earning a lot more interest. So that is the amount for the fiscal year budgeting. And then on the back side of the page is the actual amount for the plan of the unfunded accrued liability. So CalPERS is funded through three different funding sources: the employee, the employer, and investments. And if you look down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a column that says current assumption, and you'll see 56 million point two. That is the current unfunded accrued liability. You take away the market value of assets, which at this particular point in time of June 24 is 40 million, which leaves the unfunded accrued liability of 15.9 million for this particular plan, and that's the safety plan. And then the same information is on the miscellaneous plan. And what that tells us is we have an unfunded accrued liability, but our funded ratio is 71.7%. So the way to get that more closer to 100% is a couple different ways. One, paying down the unfunded accrued liability with what's known as ADP, additional discretionary payments, directly to CalPERS. Or two is when the market does much better, and the value of the market value of assets increases, and that amount is deducted from the unfunded accrued liability. Are there any questions on that before I move forward? Okay. Okay, and then the final question that came up was, a question came up on how do departments track their spending? So just to give you a kind of a overview of the process throughout the year of how this happens, the budget is approved in June, as Chris mentioned, and that is the spending plan for the city, including all of the departments. The department directors and department designees review expenses against approved budget throughout the year. An additional comprehensive review with department collaboration is conducted halfway through the year, which we refer to as the mid-year budget, which we took in February. The mid-year budget usually comes before the city council, and that's if there's any amendments that need to be made to revenue and expenses based on information that we know at the time that we're doing that comprehensive review. In addition to that, throughout the fiscal year, departments will bring forward items that are known as budget amendments. Often they will coincide with a council item that needs agreement, say for a purchase of a piece of equipment or a contract. It might not be something that there's enough budget amount, or it might be an unplanned purchase that it was never budgeted for. And so that'll come through as a budget amendment. In terms of monitoring program outcomes, this Justin talked on in relation to the recreation programs. That's something that he and Christina do throughout the year with their staff. There's other programs throughout the city. It might be something, a software program that a department uses. It could be in finance, we do the investment programs. So there's various programs that are monitored within each department throughout the year. Monitoring program outcomes, again, it goes on throughout the year, but then in particular at the time of budget. So in February and March, when departments are starting to put together their operating budgets, it's another layer of looking at their current vendor contracts or their current programs and making sure they want to continue them, or if they perhaps are going to go out for RFP to solicit new responses, or if that program is no longer needed or working for the city, then at that particular point in time, the decision could be made not to fund it.
I want to thank Anna and Nicholas for that excellent summary, and you did a great job explaining the UAL, how we monitor things, how the budget works. Fantastic job. Thank you, Anna. This is the last slide, and it just goes over, again, the next steps, which are, right now, the departments are working on budget worksheets. City manager, myself, and finance director, Anna Nicholas, we review those, and we present draft final budget. It's scheduled for the May 26th city council meeting. It takes that amount of time to get everything together, compile it, and make it look ready for council. And then council adopts the final budget scheduled on June 8th at the city council meeting, and then we implement the budget. So that concludes the presentation, and I'd love to hear if you have any questions as we move forward. Yes, I'll bring the mic over.
Anna, I had a question. You were talking about franchise fees, just as a curiosity, and this does go back some years, but are you have this franchise fee agreement in place for Mid-Valley Disposal? Is there a franchise fee in place for Mid-Valley?
There is not a franchise fee. There's an administrative cost that we get credit on. So there is a percentage that we get credit on for the contract, but it's not titled a franchise fee. And that also is in a different fund. that's the sanitation fund. So this specifically was requesting, general fund franchise fees. So the administrative cost that goes back as a source of revenue to offset the, expense of providing the administrative cost is, in Fund 6020, which is sanitation fund.
Thank you, great question.
Yeah, they don't call them franchise fees anymore. They did away with that term.
They're in old school.
Yeah.
Okay, again, thank you for being here, today. I hope that, we've all learned a little bit. I know I learned a lot just from Anna's, presentation there. And, we'll see you soon. We'll have the next city council meeting is on April 13th. It's a regular city council meeting, and we'll have some new topics to discuss at that point.
Meeting adjourned.